Yeah, we're inching closer to that big day, 25th. It's the Christmas day. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Welcome to Sunrise Daily.
And I'm Ayo. Makinde, good morning and welcome to the show.
Well, security is a big thing. It will always be a big thing.
I think there is a quick connection to what you've just said. We're inching closer to that day and security. It's a big connect. We looked forward to Christmas, to any festivity.
We always do.
A lot of excitement. Not so these days, due to these challenges of insecurity, and it is something that is definitely troubling.
Well, the DSS, they've issued this advisory. They are raising the alarm on what they call plans by some criminal elements to carry out violent attacks on public places, including key vulnerable points during the period. And it's not the first that you get such advisories from different parts of, different agencies who are supposed to usually put this on. But the SSS says that the plans is to be executed through the use of explosives, by suicide bombing and other dangerous weapons. They say is to create fear and undermine the government. That's from the state service. So they did advise everyone to just be extra vigilant and report strange and suspicious movements around them to law enforcement agencies. And so they eventually say that, they are collaborating with sister agencies to ensure that they get the best of results. So advisory that they put out this time.
Yes. As many have raised, it's not a problem of whether or not we have advisories. It's a problem of whether or not we use those advisories. We've heard it over and over again. Intelligence is all about information. And information is supposed to be given to certain specific agencies to use so that we do not run the risk of jeopardizing lives and property, even though we knew, especially when we knew the likelihood of those things to happen, would be there. But what to do now is the thing. A number of times people will say, the DSS gets information and gives it to relevant authorities. The question then some others have raised is sometimes the DSS themselves action those information. So what's the plan this time around? We've been having this kinds of advisories since the year that the UN bombing took place, and how effectively we have mitigated that is another thing altogether. Festivities such as what the Islamia students had was what we were talking about here now. I mean, they had that one and they were almost kidnapped, about 80 of them. Did we know that was going to happen?
Well, in addition to that, the NGF did pay a visit to Katsina, and thereafter they said that they were going to be a lot tougher on security and all of these things going on in different parts of the country, that yes, we will do what we have to do. North Central governors equally met, just saying that yes, we will, all talking about this challenge.
Yeah.
But I just wonder how, the how part of all of these things.
When the government of Obasanjo was having those serious issues with Niger Delta militants and all, well, it was towards the end of that government, then Yaradua came in and kicked in with the amnesty program, and it was like you just put water on fire. It kind of nosedived. Well, maybe it's still pockets of issues there now, but it's greatly mitigated, at least compared to what we had at that time. I would think that that's some kind of template. Well, maybe the circumstances are different, but it's pretty much the same. People in banditry are doing it for economic reasons. So what are we doing to try to make sure that those economic needs that they have are mitigated, are provided for, so that they don't go into it? Nobody wants to go into such risky jobs as banditry, when you could be shot dead at any time.
Well, there are different components. In that one, you knew who they were. They were Nigerians, and you know why those ones were being done. But this one, do you know who they really are? You've heard people say they are foreign fighters from different parts of the country. Some will tell you they're working with ISWAP. What is their reason? Why are they doing what they're doing? They're killing people.
I don't believe we don't know who they are.
Destroying lives and property.
I don't believe we don't know who they are. Why? Because we heard from information even given to us by the presidential spokesperson that the repentant bandits spoke with the bandits to rescue the boys. For God's sake, don't we know who they are? Come on.
Well, remember the chap who told us they see these people wielding these weapons. So why do we? Are they really bandits, so to speak?
So that we don't know who they are. Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know about that really.
There you go. So who knows? We're keeping an eye on all of these things, and all of those meetings. You'll expect that they will produce some sort of result. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at how the dailies are reflecting whatever issues are out there. I'll start with Nigerian Tribune this morning. So following that meeting and lots of talk, COVID-19 variants now. The Tribune. This is a theme. Why Nigeria can't ban flights from UK. FG. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that as well today to shed more light and give us a breakdown. Yeah. Says no fresh lockdown. In case you were wondering. Yesterday, Daily Independent reported that this is partial lockdown. But it says no fresh lockdown. Nigeria's health system can survive another outbreak. PTF.
No fresh lockdown. Is it a partial lockdown?
You'll find out soon. So, but you may want
because
to
with those restrictions
to get
that you know have been announced, I mean,
don't worry, you get your opportunity to find out what this is about sooner rather than later, hopefully. But just right beneath that one, Nigeria at risk of becoming a failed state. Financial Times. So they're looking at several indices as to what is going on, who's in charge, who's doing what, but. Well, it might be an interesting read, at least for information purposes, so that you just know what is going on. FG to shut third mainland bridge for 72 hours. So you see a lot of it in different parts of the dailies here. So you might want to take that. 17 killed in auto crash in Kogi. States working with FG to end banditry, kidnapping. Fire me. So that is the other part of this. I mean, you clearly seen several comments or heard several comments from governors about how they think something else needs to be done to show up the security architecture in the country.
I think to a large extent we need to pay attention to the regional constructs that we have, even though there is no constitutional provision for regions, but we need to pay attention to those regional constructs. Already, politically, we have been doing what we can to give attention to those, but how structural are those interventions that we are talking about? To ensure that collaboration that the North Central governors talked about, that the Southwest talk about, that each of the regions are talking about, how strong are those collaborations indeed? So it's not just talk, but there's actually that cohesion. We have talked about this over and over again. Yeah. During the First Republic, they pretty much worked together. There was no governor of the different regions, no doubt about that. But for God's sake, they had that collaboration among themselves and across all kinds of levels and strata. So I think rather than assume that our becoming states is giving us enough room for division, it's rather to even help us to cohese better, if we can use that term. I don't know. Honestly.
Well, it will be interesting to see what and how that eventually plays itself out. But you also have gunmen strike in Kano, Kaduna, kill 8, kidnap 5.
Again?
Female worker abducted in Ibadan. So, another security concern. So, perhaps part of what may have informed Financial Times' piece about Nigeria at risk of becoming a failed state. We'll flip to the back page. Nigerian Tribune here says, Arsenal players to get 25% pay cut if relegated. Whoa, are they already talking about this? This is serious, man. If it's already playing out in people's minds, as club await next two transfer windows. Wow. I want to prove my worth at Everton, as it will be. So, good. That is good form. Hopefully it should translate to good form for the Super Eagles as well. Well, that's Tribune this morning.
The Daily Trust newspaper is interested in the same thing as, the Nigerian Tribune, only from this angle that you see on the front page. Second wave, Buhari asks governors to take over fight. This had always been the advocacy of the PTF on COVID-19. How effectively that is going to be done this time around, I guess we'll wait to see. Extends COVID-19 task force mandate to March. Our health system can't withstand major outbreaks, according to the presidential task force, and different tales in states. Maybe your state is included in the report. Check page 5 of the Daily Trust newspaper for more on that. Those three headlines right under the nameplate. Only God can supervise Niger border. Stories on page 4. Virtually every newspaper has it this morning. ASUU set to suspend strike. Find that on page 6 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. What's that about? Well, you'll hear more later on. Olu of Wari not dead. That's from the palace. The story is on page 8 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Right under the picture you see there, criminals plotting to bomb public places during Yuletide. That's on, according to the DSS. Find the story on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And that's the Daily Trust today.
Well, take a look at Vanguard next. Only God can oversee Niger border. Buhari.
Told you. Every newspaper must have it this morning.
So what does this mean? Does it mean that, look, there's nothing we can do? Because when it gets to that level, it means there's nothing. You're admitting that, look, only you can do it, God.
I think, well, one can say, of course, we all look up to God one way or another. Even leaders look up to God, right? Fine, but does that mean that we shouldn't play our part? In that, comment, the president was quoted as saying, copiously that himself and the president of Niger, outgoing president, he is a very good man, been working well and all of that. He talked about that cohesion, that partnership between Nigeria and Niger, and that is fine. But I keep emphasizing this, Chamberlain. We need to have conversations and consultations with the border communities. If we do not talk to the border communities so that they can have a sense of ownership, we're just dilly-dallying around the issues because they have economic challenges. I mean, you saw when the borders were opened, you saw the jubilation at Seme, for instance. I don't know how it was at Ilila and a number of those two other places.
Yeah, but you need to look beyond that and say, okay, well, why are these celebrations coming?
Exactly.
What's going on here?
Exactly. So they have economic needs that had been shut down as a result of the border closure. I mean, you heard, one of our guests, I don't quite remember who now, saying, okay, I think it was Mr. Muda Yusuf, on Saturday was saying that these border communities depended on cross-border trade. What kind of communications are we having with them for them to have a sense of ownership of all the efforts that both Nigeria and Niger are carrying out so that they can be part of the security architecture? Security.
Well, they have a host of writers here, and I've had to read them. Nigeria at risk of becoming a failed state, Financial Times. The report is right. Nigeria sinking fast, Ohaneze. Nigeria is in a mess, Afenifere. Insecurity has become unbearable, Pandef. OPS expressed grave concerns over Nigerian economy, says relatives on ground frightening. It means, but they've got to be listened to.
Honestly.
The budget or those key indicators notwithstanding, they still say, look, this situation on ground is frightening. And if anyone perhaps needs any telling, what we saw previously about those protests, the sea of heads we saw, going to those warehouses should tell any right thinking person something.
Honest.
So, we're speaking about Sea of Heads. COVID-19 and NIN registration. Nigerians throng the National Identity Management Commission's office in Jimeta, Yola, for the National Identity Registration in Adamawa State yesterday.
Let me tell you one of the reasons that is the case. For any government document now, as little as renewing your driver license or renewing your vehicle license, right on the page of the Federal Road Safety Commission, before you go in, they tell you, without your NIN, don't bother. Driver license, without your NIN, a renewal now, don't bother. Any government, whether state or federal, without your NIN, nothing happens.
But have you seen the amount of people who don't have this name?
Exactly.
People who haven't actually heard a lot about it, who have tried and given up, they can't get it.
Exactly. So
is NIN even funded as they ought to? Is the man available to continuously speak to people? And what about those other offices? What's going on? So if they can't get it, NIN should be answering a lot of questions, whether they've spoken about it previously or not. Look at these heads. It tells you how far whatever you have said has gone to be. Look at that.
And in the light of COVID-19, just as the headline is indicates.
Well, that's the part where you ask if the authorities that actually think some of these policies and statements or pronouncements through before they make those comments. Here we are, PTF saying, look, we need to be careful and keep all of these distances. And then the ministry comes up and says, go get your NIN. There's a deadline for 2 weeks. And what were they thinking? That you get it in 2 weeks in the same country that we've all been in? Come on.
There should be ways of simplifying this process. But I think what's making it a little tougher now is we have to get your biometrics. It's the biometric element now because you can fill a form, online, but then you can't send in your biometrics online, can you? So,
oh boy, look at this. COVID-19, our health system can't bear major outbreak.
Exactly.
FG.
And it would seem like that's exactly where we're headed.
And then says healthcare system fragile. Pandemic will remain for some time. Buhari extend PTF's mandate till March 2021. Celebrate responsibly, save lives. NCDC pleads with Nigerians. So clearly, the Ministry of Communication and Health, they were not on the same page.
Clearly.
They were not on the same page.
Well,
so
maybe they're on the same page, but they're not just collaborating.
No, I don't see the same page. If you're not collaborating, how are you on the same page? Look at this now. Look at that. And despite the fact that, yes, you've announced that, extension, but you know how these things work.
This is Jimeta. This is probably going to be the case in...
This was a similar scenario in Lagos yesterday.
I mean, we heard that in Lagos.
If they didn't pull
this
it
is
down.
Jimeta, and who knows, what other areas that are not reported yet. Well, New Telegraph this morning leads with the same COVID-19 story. Buhari, Nigeria in perilous situation with COVID-19. And that's the lead story. FG orders workers below grade level 13 to stay at home. Minister, why we've not imposed travel ban. Find that story on page 3 of the New Telegraph newspaper this morning. We've talked about it, sufficiently. And under the picture you see there, insecurity with tired, frustrated governors lament. Now this is a very, very serious one here now. They are the ones directly in charge of the security of the lives and property in the respective states. And they are now the ones saying that they are tired and they are frustrated as a result of cases of insecurity. That's a problem. Well, yes, the federal government has all the paraphernalia, all the architecture, all the constitutional powers and all. But it would seem like with this, we're either outmanned or outlawed. I don't know how else to say it because it's the governors we're talking about here, Jimmy. DSS says there are plans to attack critical assets and public places again in states. So what's the plan? You find the details of this story on page 4 of the New Telegraph newspaper today.
Well, how about Guardian this morning? 43 vessels stuck in Lagos waters as port congestion worsens. Cost of shipping containers rise 600%. And then we're talking about what? The budget and how to improve the economy. Look at this, 600%. And then port congestion worsens. And people have been talking about this since for decades. What's happening to the port?
I think there's something critical. When we had this conversation with Mr. Okwefa on Saturday, one of the things that he made us know is that there are at least 32 different stakeholders at the ports. 32. Question I asked, and I'm still asking, who is the central collaborating or coordinating agency or organization? Because without that, this is not going to end. Because yes, the major highways may be free, but if it's congested inside the ports, there is no way it's not going to spill to the roads.
Well, you know, when they shut all the borders, the land borders, what did they expect? You put pressure on these other ones. And you thought that, okay, well, these other ones can handle it. But I thought, well, that might be in another country.
That's interesting, because when we spoke with the MD of the Ports Authority here, she said it was just a marginal, increase in the volume. The border closure didn't really affect the ports. That's what she said.
So how come cost of shipping of containers is rising 600%? Well, anyway, look at this now. Freight forwarders blame stoppage of container stripping barge operations. And then 44 ships expected in Lagos in December. So you just go take a look at all of those things. So look, reality is always the same thing. So we can all say different things, but what the results are always key. Doubts as Buhari hinges revenue, job creation on gas sector. So that is at the bottom strip there. So that's The Guardian today.
Look at the front page of the Leadership newspaper this morning, and what does it tell you? Governors fume. Vow to tackle insecurity at the root. The question again is how? I mean, it's interesting. New Telegraph says the governors are frustrated. Here it's saying the governors are fuming and are vowing to tackle insecurity at the root. I think that suggests to me that they know the root, right?
Well, maybe you ask them. They're the ones
fuming.
Okay,
yes. They're
the ones fuming.
Okay, but this one, the writers also says we are tired, we're frustrated. Why terrorists target schools, according to Mohammed. DSS uncovers plots to bomb public facilities. Troops rescue 10 kidnapped victims in Zamfara. Kill 2 bandits in Benue. We're working with Miyeti Allah to restore peace, described to Matawale.
Miyeti Allah. I think Katsina said that they played a role in negotiations. So now you have another one. So they play major roles now, or what?
The question what's the connection? There has to be a connection.
So what's happening to our security agencies?
There just has to be a connection.
Governments are working with those people. Well, there you go.
There has to be a connection. Because if we don't find those connections, I think that's where the issue is going to be.
Yeah, let's look at that as well.
All right. Well, the Daily Independent, very, very quickly. NAS oversight function fuels corruption in MDAs. How is that even possible?
Well, you have to read it to know it, I guess.
Well, you find the story continues on the inside pages. Affected MDAs should speak out, according to Serap. And Afenifere, NCF, Ubani, SLAM lawmakers find that on the front page, of course on the inside pages, right under the picture there. Despite new COVID-19 strain, FG soft pedals on travel ban.
How about News Direct? OPEC ceiling, Forex policy, Forex scarcity. Nigeria seeks higher production quota. Wow, that's a big one they got right there. So there you go. That is able to look at some of the dailies here this morning. We're back in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. Well, yes, we're going to get some update from 2 gentlemen joining us this morning. Dr. Sani Aliyu is the National Coordinator, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. He joins us via Skype. And then we also have Professor Onyi Wabara, who is a professor of toxicology, chemistry, and microbiology. He's a head, Department of Biomedical Sciences, now University. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. Well, Dr. Ali, let me start with you. that extension, could you shed a little more light on that? We know that, yes, the president did say in light of the new surge. Does that mean that there's an estimation that probably by March, perhaps in addition to us hopefully getting the vaccine, that by March, this should have been reduced to the barest minimum, COVID-19, that is?
Well, we hope it's not going to take up to March. We have a very good idea of why the numbers have certainly gone up. What's the difference between the end of October, early November, and now? The difference, really, the main difference is the change in people's behavior over a period of time. We are now having a situation where massive gatherings are taking place with people not wearing face masks at all, not observing physical distancing, practically inviting coronavirus to infect them. And this is why the numbers have been going up. It's really a case of people no longer taking serious consideration of their own safety when it comes to coronavirus infection. We hope that over the next few weeks, as we implement some of the measures that we've already stated over the last 2 days, especially with the cooperation of the state governors. Yesterday, we had a meeting of the subcommittee of the Nigeria Governors Forum, and I was quite impressed with the commitment of the state governors on that meeting to implement the measures that we have recommended. We are calling it advisory, but in actual fact, it's the minimum. We're saying this is the minimum implementation measures that you can do for your state. You can do more, but you certainly shouldn't do anything less than that. We hope that we will be able to plateau in the curve and get the numbers to start coming down over the next few weeks rather than March ending. March ending is simply because it will give us enough time to make sure that not only have we brought down the curve, but also make sure that there are adequate preparations put in place for the procurement of vaccines and for the initial administration, which is going to be a huge task because logistically it will be extremely challenging. We don't have the ultra cold chain within the country that we can use at a massive scale. We would need a lot of logistics. We would also need to do a lot of risk communication because the level of social acceptance of the vaccine, in our view at the moment, is pretty low. People need to be aware of the safety of the vaccine and their efficacy. So there's still a lot of work to do, but we can say we are pleased because we were hoping that our job would have been done by the end of December, but unfortunately this isn't the situation. We were almost there by in October, late November. The number of cases has really been going up over the last few weeks. We've had a situation where some of the states, for instance, are fast running out of beds for treatment, and the message needs to go out clearly to the public. This is serious. The second wave appears to be very different to the first one, maybe because we are starting off at a much higher level. If you remember when we locked down the first time in March, April, we only had a few hundred cases then. Here we are already starting with a baseline of almost 1,000 cases a day. So we're playing catch up with the virus, and the way people are currently behaving is really not helping at all. We really need to start enforcing these non-pharmaceutical interventions, and we've made it very clear. Yes, it's a festivity season, but we need to be able to survive. We've already survived 2020 right up to the very end. It would be most unfortunate if we suddenly give up at this stage and just follow the crowd and end up being infected. It will become a personal tragedy for ourselves and our families. Let's not follow the crowd. If somebody else is not wearing a mask, do not engage with the person. If you go into a place of worship and you're the only person wearing a face mask, carry on wearing the face mask. Don't take it off.
Yeah. This, what you are talking about now, the non-pharmaceutical interventions, I mean, the PTF has been talking about this for as far back as one can remember. And then you talked about, now you talk about the collaboration of the states and how impressed you are about their plans. The question one would want to ask is, what has changed or what will change in the attitude of the state governments, now I think that's the question a number of people would want to ask. That what is it that we are going to be experiencing now that's going to be different from what we haven't done before, or rather, that's going to be different from what we've been doing before, which brought us to where we are now. So what's going to be different?
So a number of things are different. Back in March, April, the level of compliance was actually very good when we started. But COVID is an unusual pandemic. It doesn't have that shock factor. You don't see people bleeding to death like with Ebola, for instance, or dropping dead in the streets. If you don't work within the health system, you wouldn't actually know what is going on necessarily. There are so many people who have never met a person who's had COVID. The majority of people tend to have a mild illness. And because of the nature and the demography of our population, which is relatively young, in general, the majority tend to be asymptomatic. But both the state governors and ourselves know what is now happening with the treatment centers. I suggest you go to the treatment centers and find out for yourself. Things are serious this time around. People are coming in with quite severe infections. And I remember back in April discussing about India. And at the time, we were just marveling and saying, oh, India got away with it. What a mild disease. Look at where India is now. So things are changing, and they are changing rapidly. The state governors have realized this. Some of them have been infected. Some of them have discussed their experiences with us at the meeting. And I remember one of them saying that he wouldn't wish it on his worst enemy. If you are 50 and above, the mortality rate for COVID, if you are between 50 to 59 in Nigeria, when we looked at our data, 23% died. 23%, that's a huge figure. So what's different? What's different is that the nature of the epidemic has changed. The state governors know this. They also know that people are tired and exhausted. Behavioral change is not easy, especially if you drag it for more than 9 months in a society where social interaction is so critical. So they know that things have to be done differently. And even the acceptance of COVID-19 among the public has gradually dwindled and gone down, despite all the risk communication and the engagement with traditional rulers, etc. And then finally, unlike April, May, this time around, the federal government has actually resourced the pandemic at the state level. Virtually all the states have received money specifically for activities related to COVID-19. So they're in a much better position. But more importantly, we're saying the enforcement side needs to move on. The federal government cannot enforce face mask wearing right down to the community level. This is the responsibility of the state, and I believe they're taking it up.
We'll get to that.
Things have to change.
Yes, we'll get to those details, the functions of the state governors. But when you say that a lot of things have changed and an increasing number of people are going, catching, the virus now, as is obvious from all of the data that's been released, is this anything to do with the second wave being as a result of a new strain of the virus?
So whatever strain of the virus you have, if you congregate in your thousands without a face mask and it's coronavirus, it will spread. It doesn't matter whether it's a B117 or whatever strain it is. So I believe it is the change in behavior. If you have a B117 strain in the country and everybody is applying non-pharmaceutical interventions, people are careful, wearing face masks, etc., it will not spread. Coronavirus does not open your door and get in. Somebody else will carry it in. Neither does it fly from one person to the other. So what I'm trying to say here is, yes, we are looking at the new strain where we've already requested NCDC to immediately start the process of sending samples over to the reference laboratories for sequencing to see whether our strains have changed significantly and whether this particular strain is a problem. But it's whatever strain you have, it's the same method when it comes to prevention. So the emphasis is really on trying to get people to understand their risk perception, understand that this is different, understand that they need to protect themselves for their own personal, for not only for their own personal gain, but also to save their families the grief of losing a loved one. But certainly we're not sitting down and crossing our hands and saying, oh, we wonder whether it could be. We're already looking into this. We are monitoring quite closely, but we know what will be required to interrupt transmission. And for the moment, the best vaccine we have at the moment these non-pharmaceutical interventions. We'll continue to work with the traditional rulers, the community leaders, etc., so that the message becomes very clear and the messenger changes to somebody who might be more acceptable in terms of getting things done. But these mass gatherings have to stop. They have to stop.
Okay, let's bring in Professor Wabara on this one. Prof, what do we know about this strain? What kind of research is going on behind the scene to give us confidence that, yes, we indeed have our finger on this one?
Good morning, Nigerians. Thank you for having me. Currently, this variant, this present strain of coronavirus, a lot of work is being done. Remember, it's just in South Africa and in the UK that this new strain has been isolated. Nobody knows the genetic makeup of this strain, if it's different from the previous one. However, as Dr. Ahmed just said, regardless of the strain, what we need to do is to take precautionary measures in order to prevent the spread of this virus. Super spread, gathering of people in places is very, very bad. It's a recipe for the spraying of this virus. So it doesn't matter the strain. What we need to do is to make sure that we take all the precautionary measures in order to protect ourselves. And treatment-wise, it's the same treatment that this is expected of this virus. This RNA virus, if they don't mutate, something is wrong. It's part of their lifestyle. So they have to. Scientists, we know all this, that definitely this virus is going to mutate. A different strain is going to come up, and regardless, treatment is still the same. And what we need to do is to make sure that individuals, from the individual households to communities, to our churches, to our mosques, or to all the places that we go, make sure we take precautionary measures in order to prevent the spread of this virus. It's deadly, and only God knows when all these things will be over. But for us to be safe, we need to do the right thing. So this virus is real, and we are hoping that with the vaccine in place, I don't know the mechanism that PTF have put in place. This virus is very, very sensitive. The storage of the vaccine is very critical. So I don't know the mechanism that PTF have put in place. When we receive this vaccine, how we're going to store it, and in the administration of the vaccine, people, we have to target those that have immune compromised system or the elderly, so that they get the first vaccine dose. And let me tell us this. It's not that someone has gotten the vaccine, you have been vaccinated, for that you are good to go. Remember, for example, the Pfizer vaccine, you get the second dose after 21 days. But the Moderna vaccine, you get the booster shot after 4 weeks. But it is assumed that you can get immune because the first dose gives you about 50-55% immunity. But the second dose gives you about 94-95% immunity. So you'll be protected. So what we need to do as we do that, I don't know when the vaccine should arrive in Nigeria, but until then, we need to make sure that we take all the COVID precautionary measures in order to protect ourselves.
Well, let's ask Dr. Ali himself. He's here to shed some light on the issues you just raised about how we're planning to, what measures have we put in place when we receive the vaccine to store and then administer. Could you go ahead, please, Dr. Ali?
Okay, well, thank you. So yesterday, Mr. President actually gave the PTF the mandate to proceed with preparations with regards to the vaccine. Just to make it very clear, when the PTF was inaugurated back in March, there was no vaccine available for coronavirus. But nevertheless, we have continued to work with the Federal Ministry of Health and the Primary Healthcare Development Agency The NPHCDA has a lot of experience of delivering vaccines across the country. They were involved with the polio outbreak, and with the polio vaccination, and even at the moment, they are responsible for the delivery of routine childhood vaccinations across the country. So they have a lot of experience. What is particularly challenging, as Prof said, with some of these vaccines that have come out for coronavirus, has to do with the method of storage. It's ultra cold chain storage, where you have to store them at minus 70 degrees and transport them around the country before you're able to use them. So, but there are other vaccines that do not require such extremely low temperatures. So, for instance, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine requires, I think, between 2 to 8 degrees, which is the sort of temperature that we currently use. What as a country we are doing now is a lot of work is going on behind the scene. The NPHCDA have a committee. The minister himself has set up an expert advisory committee, and the PTF is now coming in to make sure that we coordinate effectively. And we have been linking up with the National Assembly as well. We were hoping that funds will be put up within the 2021 budget for the COVID-19 vaccine program, but we understand that it's a bit too late for that, and we have to go for a specific supplementary budget. We had a meeting a few days ago with the National Assembly leadership. So everybody is on board, and Mr. President has also given us the marching orders now. The COVID-19 vaccine will be available in Nigeria, making use of the Gavi arrangement. We already have assurance that we will have 20% of our population accommodated by Gavi with regards to the vaccine. We don't need to pay for that, so about 40 million Nigerians or so, but we have to pay for the operations and the logistics associated with it. We are also planning to pay for an additional 20 to 40%. In general, over the next 2 years, we need at least 70% of the population vaccinated before we can actually be sure that we have enough herd immunity. But just to make it clear to the general public, even if we had the vaccine available tomorrow in Nigeria, this epidemic will not change unless we apply the protective measures that we have been advising right from the beginning. The vaccine alone will not change it. If you look at the time period required for the vaccine to take effect, if you look at the Pfizer vaccine, for instance, the first dose, as Prof said, it takes about 12 days for you to have an undetectable antibody response. The second dose, after the second dose, it takes about a week. So in overall, it takes more than a month for one to have adequate immunity with the vaccine.
Okay.
And the Pfizer vaccines are one of the most effective at the moment.
Let me just
what's going on, but we will continue to update the public.
Okay, I just want to get some quick clarifications on some of the things you said. So, is it that these vaccines will be administered free, for all eventually? Because you talk about 28, 70%. Okay, then in the meeting you had with the President of the Senate, I think we heard him say that he thought that there will be, there may be need for us to hold on a little bit about getting the vaccine, develop the infrastructure, the health infrastructure here, so that when we receive it, we have the capacity or capability to then go ahead and administer. And then we heard the president say, look, use existing infrastructure to receive the vaccine. So where are we on this?
So the president didn't say use existing infrastructure. The president said use existing health agencies that have been involved with vaccination and the infrastructure that is in place. But he didn't say do not develop the infrastructure or do not renovate the infrastructure. The Senate president was right. When you have a large-scale exercise like this, where are you going to keep the vaccine? Are you going to keep them in normal fridges if they require minus 70? So definitely you need to upgrade the infrastructure. And what we are planning to do at the moment is to engage closely with primary healthcare. There will be a need to have at least one primary healthcare facility in each local government, maybe close to a secretariat, for instance, that's designated as a vaccine center, where the vaccines will be stored there, where you have access to ultra cold chain equipment, where you'd have 24-hour.
Yeah, but Dr. Ali, Parliament's important on this one. When the president of the Senate says use existing infrastructure, and if you say the president says use existing health agencies, what infrastructure do they have? Isn't it the same thing that the president of the Senate is saying?
I'm afraid you're wrong there. What I'm trying to say is, Of course, you have
How
to
so?
renovate the infrastructure. But how soon? Immediately, the president has already given the orders. We are in the process of getting the funds. But I'm afraid you're misreading what the president said and what the Senate president meant. Overall, in total, of course, you have to upgrade infrastructure in order to carry out such a large exercise. Our primary healthcare centers at the moment, some of them don't have running water or electricity. How do you expect the vaccines to be delivered, especially vaccines that require very, very cold chain? Of course. So I wouldn't say that this is an issue at all. Both the president and the Senate president are all talking about the same thing. We need to make sure that the logistics are sorted out, but we don't need to wait. We can do everything in parallel. We don't need to wait until the infrastructure is in place before we start putting in orders, etc.
From that speech,
it says there's no doubt.
I hear you, but pardon me. It says that the PTF should coordinate the process for planning and the strategy for accessing, delivery, and administration of the vaccines using the existing health structures that have worked in the past in vaccine administration. What is the difference?
Health structures are the health agencies that have been running this, essentially. And of course, we're not going to bulldoze and bring down primary healthcare centers and rebuilding them completely for vaccine. No. What we're going to do is to make sure that the storage facilities are there, the training is there for the healthcare workers, people understand, but more importantly, the public awareness side. The biggest challenge we will have with the vaccines is not going to be the logistics. No, the biggest challenge will be public acceptance of the safety of these vaccines and allowing them to be vaccinated, very similar to the challenges we had with polio before. But of course, the infrastructure has to be renovated in order to accommodate it. Let me take it. And
just a moment.
Both of them are talking the same thing.
Yeah, we're gradually winding down on this. Let me ask Prof, about what you have said now, and that is the issue of acceptance by the people. You've just heard Dr. Aliyu say that's going to be a challenge, persuading people to get vaccinated for COVID-19 would be a challenge. How much of a challenge, in your opinion, is that likely to be? Well,
it could be a challenge if the area of awareness, PTF and Ministry of Health and CDC, they have to do a very better job from what they're doing right now in educating people and creating the awareness. For example, in the US, during the Tuskegee project, when black men were used as guinea pig for syphilis, that mindset has not changed. It's just recently that black African Americans have started to welcome the usual or the normal health care system in the US. Now, coming back to Nigeria, now you have to let the people know that this vaccine is safe for you to take it. We need to have people, like what is happening all over the globe. You see celebrities, world leaders getting in the front line, taking the vaccine to create that awareness, to assure people that, yes, this vaccine is safe. And I commend the scientists. Over the years, in the production of vaccine, is something that this new platform, vaccine production technology, has improved. In that, at the molecular level, things are being done that have not been done before. Normally, before, it takes about 3 years for you to get a vaccine. But look at what has happened in the last 9 months. That is the area where molecular technology, the vaccine production, that have made tremendous progress. So what we need to do is to create an awareness. This vaccine, what it does is this. It has what we call messenger RNA in it. This messenger RNA tells your body, look, I want you to provide antibody against this virus. It's like a messenger. When that happens, your body, over time, will get ready. Whenever that virus comes into your body, now the antibody that has been produced by your own body to fight this virus is specific. We fight it. Now, we have to assure the citizens that this vaccine is safe because
I think that's the
past history. Where
that's the part where we will definitely do a lot more have a lot more communication in the days ahead, but we have to anchor at this point. Onyiwa Agbara is a professor of toxicology, chemistry, and microbiology. He's the head department of biomedical sciences, Nile University. We've also had Dr. Sani Aliyu, National Coordinator, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. Gentlemen, we do thank you for coming on, and this is a conversation we'll look forward to having in the days ahead. We're back in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. We're joined by His Excellency Yahaya Bello, Governor of Kogi State. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, let's start off with,
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chamberlain, and good morning, Nigerians.
All right, let's start off from where the comments came through from the PTF. They say, we just had Dr. Aliyu saying they're meeting with state governors. The president did, of course, encourage them to have that conversation with state governors. And he says they were quite fruitful meetings. He was encouraged by the responses from governors. So could you give us at least some information concerning what is going on about that meeting, and then the position of governors, how they intend to conduct themselves moving forward in their states?
Are you talking about the issue of COVID-19?
Yes, please.
Please, I think I would rather be excused from discussing COVID-19 because I have taken a position and I don't see myself shifting away from that position anytime soon or ever. I said this against the backdrop of the fact that we saw a lot of the gimmicks and antics and merchandising of foreign products that is not marketable in Nigeria at all. And I said this long ago, and some people who are, advising Mr. President continue to, take a wrong trajectory. I will say that. You can't for crying out loud do cut and paste when it comes to issues like this. Let me just simply summarize it by saying this, and put me anywhere. If in the winter in Europe, America, and other places outside the world, we're turning on our heater, both at home, at work, and when we're driving along the road. What do you do in Nigeria? You turn on AC, air conditioner. Why didn't we turn on, or why are we not turning on ACs in our homes, cars, and offices? So that is the challenge that we are facing in the management of this COVID-19. I don't think we should apply same solution across. Here we are in Kogi State. We say we have no COVID-19, and actually, as a matter of fact, we have no COVID-19. After the early, misunderstanding between the state government and the NCDC, we later allowed them to step into Kogi State. After 1 month of intensive testing by their workers and officials, not one single individual was tested positive. NCDC, Ministry of Health, and my state incident management team went round. They went to institutions, marketplaces, motor parks, streets, villages, towns, and cities. And not one single individual was confirmed positive. We have, of course, you know that in Kogi State, we are running a very smooth academic sessions in our tertiary institutions. When students are resuming back to school, we carry out tests. The indigenes, or those that are resident within Kogi State, and those that are coming from outside the state, we test them, and there has never been one single positive test. Now, we have NYSC camp in Kogi State. We have received up to 3 or 4 streams of batches of core members. NCDC, NYSC, the military, the Kogi State incident management team jointly carry out this exercise of testing on those core members that resumes camp. Not one single, and every stream comprises of not less than 700 to 750 core members. Not one single one test positive. Our eyes are there. We ensure they don't manipulate the numbers. You see, all this brouhaha coming up about the issue of COVID-19 and vaccine, I don't think we deserve it now. We have an economy that Mr. President inherited, struggling, recession, low income, left, right, center. And Mr. President is doing his best to make sure he pulls it out of the woods. I think we, the followers, or we, the lieutenants, or those of us that are charged with the responsibility of advising Mr. President should do that with utmost fear of God Almighty. We're talking of insecurity today in the country. Boko Haram, ISWAP, banditry, kidnapping, armed robbery. Let me tell you that when you lock over 200 million citizens at home for one day, you cannot quantify the number of lives that are lost. Livelihoods lost can never be regained, most of them. We don't need these marketing strategies that is happening in the country today. It is most unfortunate. But unfortunately, I mean, they are there. They are doing their job, you know, whatever it is. But honestly, I am not on the same page with them. Look at Kogi State. We did not lock down.
Okay, fine. I was going to follow up on...
Despite all the
that analogy you gave.
Troubles we are facing.
Pardon me to jump in.
Please, let me just land.
Okay.
After all, let me just land this. You see, after all the troubles of not locking down, we refused to lock down, Kogi State bordering 10 states, we have seen it practically. Today, Kogi State is safer in terms of healthcare delivery, in terms of security, and it has manifested in the number of investment flowing into Kogi State today. I didn't say it. Nigeria Investment Promotion Council said it. They are the ones that are keeping the data. Out of 3.6 billion inflow of investment, Kogi alone had over 1 billion. There's no rocket science. We didn't do anything. We simply make sure that things work in Kogi State. And that is where we are. Imagine what we are losing as a nation. We don't need to participate in this marketing of vaccine or COVID-19. Let our people be free. That is just my simple message to the PTF. Mr. President entrusted you. He had an absolute trust in you. And I think you have the duty to advise Mr. President in line with the current reality we're facing in the country today. So I don't think we should overburden the matter.
Okay, so in consideration of your heater AC analogy, where you think we should be doing something different or approaching it differently here, what suggestions or recommendations did you offer that has not been heeded? And if you don't mind, which quarters did you offer this to?
I have said these severally in our various meetings that we have as governors, in National Economic Council meeting, in various fora. I have made my position known, personally and openly and in public. Let me take you through once again, Mr. Chamberlain. If we are going to expend 540 billion in the purchase of vaccine, let me just simply give you this analysis. In Kogi State today, we are building a multi-billion naira hospital that is going to have every equipment you can ever think of in terms of medical and healthcare service delivery, worth just 4.7 billion. Now, let's extrapolate. If we are going to spend 10 billion naira per health institution that will cater for a more deadly disease, not COVID-19 that has 99.9 chances of recovery rate, a more deadly disease that are killing every day, if we expend just 10 billion only, and 10 billion put in Nigerian factor, let me put it that way, and taxes, we are going to have 54 of such. Every state power will have one each. FCT can have up to 2, Lagos can have up to 2, Kano can have up to 2, and some other major cities can have up to 2. No disease we will not be able to cure secure in this country. From CBN, analysis sometimes back, 3.5 trillion expended so far on COVID and COVID-related matters. We don't need to have gone through that route. In one of these, our sessions in the National Economic Council meeting, there was this issue that came up regarding infrastructure, road infrastructure in the country. I'm sure you know Mr. President care about Nigerians so much that he continued to emphasize on infrastructure building of infrastructure, and he's doing much within the little resources available to him. But in order to take it further and faster, we suggested that a committee be set up under the leadership of Governor Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, and this committee did a wonderful job. This committee comprises of some governors, including CBN themselves. And they came up with just a report that's, in summary, that requires only 2 billion only to fix major commercially viable roads in the country. That report has been gathering dust over 1 year. Yet, we have expended 3.5 trillion on COVID and COVID-related matters. That is unprecedented. How did we spend our money? I think we should be asking questions on national issues that concerns our lives and livelihood. So, if we're now gravitating towards locking down our people, creating a scenario and a situation where civil servants and Nigerians will be forced to take vaccine that the producers have absorbed themselves. In other words, this is my product. I produced it, but I will not take responsibility if this product harm you. Yet, we are rushing to get this product to force on our people. I don't think PTF should go that route. That is my personal opinion. I think they should do better.
Well, you've raised one crucial issue the other time, which is the fact that when you said the livelihoods lost may not be regained. Same for lives. And you've also over and over again talked about lives and livelihood. And lives now, let's talk about that one. It was the reason the North Central governors had a meeting to discuss insecurity and those other things. A number of other things that you raised. And part of the recommendation was that the military camps should be built in the North Central so that, we can, ward off these bandits and all of that. The question that came to my mind straight away is asking for military barracks or military camps is in a way saying that the central governors of the North Central states have lost confidence in the police. Is that the case?
Not the case. That's not the case at all. In North Central, we face a lot of security challenges, and sometimes it can be peculiar, and we're handling it the best way we can. Remember, we met sometimes last year in Nasarawa State with the whole of the North Central, including Inspector General of Police. And we came up with far-reaching decisions, some of which were implemented, some were yet to implement. And those that were implemented really worked, among which is deploying of special forces of both the military, the police, and the Air Force. Today, we have the Air Force based, I think, in Nasarawa State, Benue State. So also, just of recent, the Nigerian Armed Forces deployed special forces to assist us. Today, they are doing excellently well. The special forces cannot occupy a space or a land for too long. They just come in, do clearance operation, and leave for another destination. So we now look at it this way, that we have to see a situation where camps does not necessarily mean that all the soldiers or soldiers must always be there at all times. It could be a designated area for training or for military exercises, thereby warding off, this bandits or criminals, of hibernating in these areas. So when we talk of, deployment of military, that is what we mean by that. And they are trained to do that. The police are not trained to go inside the bush. Even though recently, the Nigerian police have really come up with another special forces too, that could equally, assist in going into the bush to rout out the criminals. So right now, the relative peace and security we are enjoying in the cities and on highways are being manned by the police. So they are trying very well. So when we say military should be deployed, camps should be established, it's to simply say, let there be training grounds, periodically allow your military to come and be carrying out some trainings around these areas. Because having seen how effective the special forces under the command of Major General M.G. Ali, I think they have done excellently well.
Well, again, if you don't mind me emphasizing the same thing, Your Excellency, you said that you had that meeting with the IG, the Inspector General of Police. If some of those things that you recommended, which you governors believe would work, have not been implemented, wouldn't you say we are overwriting or overruling the functions of the police by asking the military to come and perform the job of the police?
Let me take you a little bit further than the just mere reducing, securing our country or our region or our states to the function or to the responsibilities of just the military and the police alone. I will just tell you briefly about what I did in Kogi State, and which I believe has worked very well. Securing an enclave is not just the responsibility of the military or the police. What we did in Kogi State was to ensure that the citizens own the security architecture and safety of their lives and livelihoods. So what the military and the police were doing was just, complementing the efforts of the citizens. So if each and every one of us are doing that, I think insecurity will be curbed significantly, and the military and police, the pressure will be reduced on the military and the police. Why did I say this? When I said this against the backdrop of the fact that, I'm sorry to say, political will is greatly required in fighting this insecurity in our land today. Let the truth be told. When we went to Nasarawa in that particular meeting, some bandits were said to have repented, and that we should grant them amnesty. My lone voice spoke, and I did said that I will never negotiate with bandits, kidnappers, or any of these criminals. Not up to 2 weeks thereafter, the head of this bandit that I saw with my 2 eyes, naked eyes, and his ragtag lieutenants went on rampage again, kept kidnapping and killing and maiming our people. Now, somebody were in touch with them. A high-ranking political stalwart in this country were in touch with them. He came and guaranteed that amnesty that day. And he spoke to the media that he is guaranteeing that these criminals will not return back to that path. But where are we today? In Kogi State, this is what I do. If we discover that you have connection with any form of criminal or any cell at all, we don't spare you. We will deal decisively with the soldiers of those criminals or the foot soldiers of these criminals, and we come straight head on for those who stood for them, and we neutralize them straight away. And then that gave the confidence to the Nigerian citizens, to Kogi citizens. And then they began to come out to volunteer informations. And we worked on those informations and intelligence, and we're getting it right in Kogi State. So, irrespective of your political affiliation or your status in Kogi State, you dare not have hand in crimes and criminality. The law will deal decisively with you. We'll follow the law to deal with you. So these are the things that we need to do as a people, as a government, to reduce pressure on government, to reduce pressure on security forces. It is still under the leadership of the current service chiefs that we are able to achieve these feats and successes in Kogi State. Remember, I inherited a state that was bedeviled with all forms of crimes and criminality. But today, reverse is the case. We are seeing it in the investment profile of the state. We are seeing it in the security and safety of our people. Our people are living very nicely, healthy, and they are happy with us. So these we have really canvassed in our various meetings, including the last one, and I trust that we are going to implement it across board.
We'll let you shed some more light on some of these other measures, what will play out, how should we approach some of these things when we return in just a moment. Please join us again. Welcome back to Sunrise City. Well, Your Excellency, we'd like you to listen to this comment from one of your colleagues, and then we'll also reference one material which ascribed to you in just a moment. But have a listen to this.
Have already instituted court actions that I will take the said person to the court to justify his claim. But because of that intervention, I decided to step aside. Because of the intervention of my colleagues, I now decided to hold on till when the APC has taken action against that person, because it's something that touched my reputation. So, as I said, based on the potential that the state has, this boundary was just created in order to scare away the investors so that they should not come into this country and invest, which it is very, very unfortunate. We have so many things to tell the world, but the time will come that we'll open up and inform the whole world what is happening and what happened and why they created that boundary so that the whole world will understand what we have been going through. That with the help of Almighty Allah, we are on top of the matter, and Zamfara State gradually is, becoming a normal state, and most of the activities are going on in the state now. In fact, now in Zamfara State, you can go to any corner, any local government, any time without any harassment.
Well, that was Zamfara State Governor saying that he was stopped by the Nigeria Governors Forum from taking legal action over allegations by the acting National Publicity Secretary of the APC, who allegedly labeled him as a major sponsor of bandits in the Northwest. So those are some of the issues that he raised. But if you can hear me, Excellency, you also did have an interview on the 19th of December. That's when it was published, actually. You were credited to have said that selfish politicians were frustrating security in Kogi. As a matter of fact, you said that politicians are politicizing insecurity for selfish political and economic gains, and then you say that they are enemies of the country. And in that particular report as well, the governor did say that banditry, his words were, banditry was created. What is going on?
Mr. Chamberlain, thank you very much. I think I agree with my colleague governor from Zamfara State. When I came on board, like I said earlier, I inherited a state that was largely divided along several lines. And for you to aspire to be anything politically in Kogi State then, you must have what we call boys or thugs or touts. And then use it to intimidate yourselves during political dispensations. Once the political exercise is over, the so-called thugs or boys or foot soldiers will be abandoned and be left to themselves. And by that, they breed into something else, or a hydra-headed monster that you will not be able to curb at the end of the day. There are several history records and intelligence to that effect, not only in Kogi State, not only in Zamfara State, not only in the north, but across the country. And they are still existing today. But what did I do when I came on board? I refused to play that kind of dangerous and unnecessary politics. My ascension to office is known to everybody across the world. So I chose my path immediately and decided to deal with criminals irrespective of political affiliation. And what did I do? I simply utilized the laws as I met on ground. Some passed by the Kogi State House of Assembly, assented to by my predecessor, but never used. And again, use the existing security architecture, both the military, the police, the DSS, and all others. And then I went to the people with sincerity of purpose. I was open, transparent, and I was accountable in the utilization of the resources of the state for the entirety of the people. And then I now put it across to them side by side. Here are situations we have met on ground. Should we dispense or utilize this fund in fighting insecurity and leave our infrastructure? Or we should fight insecurity within ourselves, using the available means, and use the resources for the people. The people chose that we should use the resources for them. So I got them involved in the fight against crimes and criminality. So irrespective of your political affiliation, those that are criminals among themselves, they exposed them. And what did I do? We took action. We never harbored anybody. We did not encourage anyone to attack the other. We opened the door. We run an open door policy in the state. And the people bought into it. And then, irrespective of who you are, highly placed or the political party you belong to, everybody now began to follow the rules of the game. Now, I don't think I am privy to when the NGF took a decision that the Zamfara State governor should not take whoever cast aspersion on his person or his government to court. I will not support that as a person. If anybody accused you wrongly of any misdeed, and you feel strongly about it, you as a free citizen or as a government, you are free to take, the matter to court. And I think I will encourage my brother Mutawale to take the matter to court.
Okay, but
now, and I did equally alluded to the fact that.
Pardon me, Excellency, let me just follow up on something you mentioned.
State having meeting.
Yeah, but before you go to that next point, and I hope you don't lose your train of thought, your first term, how you came into office, yes, lots of people saw that. But for the second term, are you saying you won election without boys? You have some people who worked with you and worked for you.
I won my election free and square. Police, the DSS, the military, and all law enforcement agencies and intelligence world have their fact. You see, don't listen too much to what they peddle, the lies and falsehood they peddle in the media. That's why sometimes when those things are going on, I simply laugh. I say how I wish they come to Kogi State to come and spend even just ordinary 1 week. Just 1 week.
Your Excellency, we are listening to you.
You see, let me tell you a scenario. My
apologies, Your Excellency, just before you go there,
Just one moment, Your Excellency.
You said, earlier, before, Chamberlain asked this question, you said, you can't win an election without some boys working for you. That's what you said. And I think that's the background upon which, Chamberlain is asking if those boys also worked for you to win the election.
No, I said those prior to now. I said Kogi State is a state that you can't become anything, you can't win any election without affiliating yourself with boys. Some people call it thugs, some call them touts. I say reverse is the case in my own election and re-election. And I'll give you this a scenario. We try to beautify the town and cities across Kogi State. On a particular campaign trail of a contestant, when they got to one roundabout, we call it Paparanda roundabout, very beautiful, well littered. All the floodlights, the street lights, and the beautification were destroyed. Had it been I took action then, it would be misinterpreted that I am trying to suppress or oppress, a contestant. But there's nowhere in my campaign you have ever heard that, or you heard that any of my supporter or followers go into destruction of billboards, signposts, or installation of the state's government. There's nowhere. Before, during, and after the election. I made bold to say this. Some people might even allude to the incident, unfortunate incident that led to the death of PDP women leader in one of the local governments. Investigations are still on, and I promise you I am going to prosecute that case to the letter to prove who I am. And the informations out there are completely false. But when the reality or the truth comes out, we equally make it public.
Okay, that's good to know.
When politicians began to stop the use of thugs, touts, or some group of criminals, then that is when we will begin to have safety and security.
Let me take you to the point you were about to make.
A top stalwart.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question, and you were going to make the point. You were also quoted in that interview saying politicians are frustrating security in this country. In fact, they are the ones responsible, if I could, interpret it that way, responsible for the insecurity we have in the country. So, do you want to shed some light about that? What category are these politicians? Are they in the realm of what? Ministers, governors, or what?
Politicians at all levels, save Mr. President. Politicians at all levels, save Mr. President. Records are there. Where criminals are of different kind, but I refer to them as criminals. I will not classify. Will be arrested, and calls will be put across to top security chiefs to either release them or make case for them. And at the end of the day, you see them roaming the streets. I did say just now that somebody came to take or stand or guaranteed the amnesty of some criminals and criminal leaders. Today, those people are still walking free. When you guarantee somebody and the person does not keep to the terms of the agreement or understanding, they should pay the price. They should face the music. But I don't think we are ready to go that hog.
Your Excellency,
but honestly, under my leadership in Kogi State, whoever you are, we are dealing with you decisively.
Okay. Well, one of the issues that was raised at that meeting, involved, food security, so to speak. The good question to ask would be, how is that going to happen? Part of the resolution in that communique indicated that the North Central governors are embracing the federal government's livestock transformation plan. How is that going to be operationalized, given all of these insecurity issues around?
That is why each time we come or our lone voice like this speak, people should listen to us. That let's prioritize. issue of herders and farmers clash, has been lingering on in this country. And the earlier we pay attention to investing in that sector, agriculture is not just crops. Agriculture involves livestock. And anybody can participate in that sector. Federal government should de-emphasize in centralizing the control of that particular program. Agriculture takes place in states and in local governments. The earlier governors are given free hand to run and drive the process, the better. Ministry of Agriculture can just coordinate and listen to every state of their demands and meet up with those demands. Then we know how to handle it at our local level. If that one is ensured, there will be no clash again between herders or livestock keepers and crop farmers. And then there will be a lot of food production in the country. The little we are able to do within our region, the Benue, I'm sure you know that in Benue State, the incident of farmers herders clash has reduced drastically. So also in Niger State, the man has done excellently well. Governor Abubakar Sani Bello has done excellently well. Equally in Plateau State, he is equally managing those crises. All it requires is just resources. It is more, let it be, even if it has to be a form of bailout, let it be. Because other private businesses were once bailed out. Airlines, banks, and so on were once bailed out. These are private businesses. So if such funds can be disbursed to various states and materials, I think we're going to have everlasting peace and security in that angle or in that aspect.
Your Excellency, just before you go, one more thing. I know that the last time out you spoke about NSAS protest. In fact, you warned even not long ago that some persons were doing certain things to see maybe for their own gain. But there were those who thought that that warning or the NSAS that was going to happen much later was going to be worse than what was saw previously. So was it a misconception? Are we off the hook now? Is everything calm concerning any of such related protests?
Well, like I said, I supported the genuine cause and reason why the NSAS protest, emanated in the first place. I supported it 100%. I only cautioned against allowing unguided elements hijacking it and turning it against us. Because at the end of the day, we, the younger ones or the youth, are the ones that are going to be turned against one another. And the protest was about taking a political coloration, and it was assuming a dangerous dimension. And if that should continue, we're not going to have a country before we could talk of reformation. I envisioned that, and I cautioned, and I think the protesters saw reasons why they should sheath their sword. And at the end of the day, they sheathed their sword, and today we're living in peace. Right. I want to tell them and advise that the youths, the younger generation, should continue to be vigilant and put us that are in positions today on our toes to continue to deliver good governance for our people. We should not allow those of us that are in positions today at whatever level to bring us down because of few individual interests. When I say this, those that are involved, they know. Don't listen to politicians. Rather, join politics. Be part of the system so that we can control and cleanse the system. These were my admonitions, and I thank God and I appreciate the organizers, the participants of the protest, that they heed to my word and advice. And as we proceed, whatever I see that is not going to be in the interest of we, the younger generations, or the youths, I will speak out. I will make it known public. And I believe Nigerians will always listen to me.
All right, then, Your Excellency Yahaya Bello, Governor of Kogi State, thank you for talking to us this morning.
Thank you. And happy Christmas in advance to all Nigerians.
Thank you. All right, so now, remember, ASUU did have a meeting yesterday about the long-drawn strike that they've had. So what is going on at the moment? Let's have a look. This is a press conference that the Academic Staff Union of Universities are having this morning. Those are live pictures coming through from Abuja, where they are having that meeting. So pretty soon you're going to get word from them concerning what this is about, what are the next steps that ASUU is going to take. Remember, there were comments credited to the Minister of Labour yesterday that universities will resume in January.
Yeah.
So is this the path, or one of the paths, to that resumption?
Well, perhaps, in case you missed it, by the way, that happened, when the Minister of Labour was saying that, on Tuesday, he was saying, that was yesterday, that negotiations with the leadership of ASUU will end the industrial action that has crippled academic activities. And hopefully, as soon as all of these preambles is over, we'll be able to hear something solid. But then, hearing something solid about this, in the light of closure of schools and what the Daily Independent, captioned yesterday as partial lockdown, how is it going really? I guess time will tell.
So that will be a good one. So who knows? Are they going to announce calling off or suspending this strike? It's going to be really instructive. I mean, it's been long overdue for this to have been sorted. So who knows what happens at the end of the day. So, but yes, those are live images. We're going to bring you up to speed. In fact, we are staying there for a moment. But then we'll have to eventually, I think they're signing some documents at the moment. But we'll come back to this and give you updates on that one. But then we also do have a man, Chris Elems. He's on the streets of Lagos. Yes, they did announce some restrictions. Okay, well, I'm not sure that is...
Those restrictions, is it about the marketplaces?
Different gatherings. So they talked about gatherings, limit yourself to 50 in some cases, avoid clusters. So what's going on? And this is a festive season. How are people conducting themselves out there on the streets? Do they have that at the back of their minds? Don't forget, economy. The economics of this all plays, it weighs heavily in the minds of people who are trying to make ends meet, those who eke a living on a daily basis. So perhaps that's where the communication is lost, in them trying to strike a balance, even with the PTF or several authorities trying to communicate. Behavioral communication is really important and how they do some of those things. So who knows?
All kinds of communication that has to go on. This one is behavioral communication. There is risk communication. There's public communication. There is all kinds of communication.
And there are certain things that come in the way of those communication, getting them to take that next steps, and that, which you call channel noise.
Noise. It's not just the noise in the marketplace, it is noise.
There's a tech, okay. Well, I got
That's the technical language, noise. So are all these things also factored into the marketplaces? Well, Chris Elems, as we mentioned, is at a market. Chris, where are you and what's going on?
Hey, good morning to you. I'm actually at the Mile 12 International Market here in Lagos, and it is actually the biggest vegetable or perishable item in West Africa. Well, as expected, this is December 23rd. There are a lot of transactions happening here. People coming from all parts of the state and even other countries to come buy goods and perishable items here. By this time last year, of course, the cost of some of these items were very, very high. But this time around, incidentally, they are cheaper than they were last year. The only issue is that last year, by this time, we had Harmattan in Lagos. But right now, no Harmattan here. And I'm actually with the chairman of the market, Alhaji Shehu Usman, and he would be speaking with us, telling us a bit about how they have been coordinating activities here at the market. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, tell us a bit about activities at the market and how you've been able to really coordinate things, and of course the prices of goods and services here.
For as long as government give a priority for the farmers, a good atmosphere to farm, they should be able to get a good thing to eat in Lagos. As I always said, all the time, you don't hide perishable items. It's when you hide them, you're bound to lose. It's either you bring it to the market or you keep it in the farm and make loss of it. So here in the market, you can see we have a lot of varieties of items, onions, all sorts of things are here in this market. And to God be the glory, this festive period is going to be a good one. Before this time, last week or 2 weeks ago, onion was about 90 to 100,000 naira. But right here today, in the market, we sell onions at the rate of 30,000, 25,000.
Okay, well, some of the issues that we're looking at different things right there, but there's a big question mark. What's the word? How do people internalize that word compliance? Compliance with the COVID protocol. What's going on? Because in that market, I'm not sure I saw a lot of people of those clips.
Well, it'll be good to have Chris ask the coordinator of the market. I mean, that's the fellow he is talking to. When the whole process started sometime in March, you know, the compliance level, in fact, it was very, very strict. You couldn't go into the market without being checked and without wearing a mask and all those things. But from what we are seeing right there, it doesn't look like that is happening much. At what point have we cut down on that compliance and all the rigidity that created but task?
It's going to be a challenge to the authorities wherever they are in ensuring that, given the nature and the structure of that market,
that's the
if
thing.
we had a different format of the market, perhaps it makes the job easier for everybody.
That's the thing, Chamberlain. But it's all about people. I think generally there's something that the governor, His Excellency, the governor of Kogi State said, and that is for people to own the process. We need to find a way to communicate it to people to own it.
Yeah, but look,
without owning it, it's just going to be noise.
Good point, but you know when they say, can you put something on nothing? If I'm going to own it, am I, for instance, is the person going to own it based on that existing structure? So if you own it based on that existing structure, how does it materialize? It's going to be a lot easier if the format of the market was at least a lot better and built or structured such that it takes all of this into cognizance. It will be almost impossible for anyone not to own it or not to be seen to own it, because people will call you out. I mean, look at several other establishments. When you get in there, they tell you, no, you have to do certain things before you come in. Churches, a lot of them have adjusted. So the state government in Lagos shut down, a nightclub the other day for violating principles.
Well.
It's a structured environment.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think I get what you're saying, but at the same time,
not making excuses for the not complying, though.
Yeah. If people owned the process, enforcement will be minimal. You know, if people were able to own the process to say, this is about me, this is about the fellow man, my fellow man. If people owned the process, the need to enforce compliance will be greatly reduced.
Which is part of what they did also say in terms of enforcement. But some of these things too came from Abuja. So we might as well just go back there, even though I was still waiting for them to say a thing or two about what to expect from that meeting. Are they signing those documents, ASUU saying that okay, it's time in January, everybody go back or come back, we will welcome, open the gates that have been shut. They will be glad. It will be music to the ears of people.
Well, it will be good to just stay on this and wait until, eventually ASUU is able to do that, but we're completely run out of time. We definitely will keep you updated on this just to ensure that
but they need to keep the dialogue
first.
Because we will bring you that update once they start a comment or two. But that is it today on Sunrise Daily. It's a week of Christmas. And goodness me, what's tomorrow and the day after? As if I'm not going to be at work. Anyway, well, I'm not complaining. But thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Another reminder. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. I'm Yahaya. Have a wonderful day.